Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we are adding on to my content series. We are discussing my recording and editing process for making my podcast. I've been doing my podcast since the summer of 2023 and we are currently on season 2 of Chaos and Coffee, my podcast name, and the link is always in the description. With podcasts being so popular nowadays, really anyone can start a podcast. So without further ado, subscribe if you enjoyed this video. If you have a YouTube channel or you have a podcast, let me know in the comments what it is because I definitely want to go check it out. But let's get into this video. So we're gonna start off with discussing how I set up my equipment. This is a little bit different from filming a YouTube video, which I also plan on filming a how I film and edit my YouTube videos video, so that's probably going to be episode 3 in this series. But back to podcasting. Equipment is a little bit different. When I'm filming a YouTube video, I don't use a microphone, I just use my camera. But when recording a podcast episode, regardless of if I am doing a video form podcast episode or just an audio form podcast episode, I do use a microphone because the audio is better, it's cleaner, and it cuts out any white noise from the background that may or may not try and sneak its way in. A huge misconception about podcast microphones is that you need a stupid expensive microphone to have good quality audio, which is not true. A lot of people will actually use just like headphones with a microphone attached to it and they'll just speak into it, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that. My personal favorite microphone is the Zeal Sound microphone that I got from Amazon. I believe it was either 20 or 30 bucks. And this microphone is really good. I really like it. It has some key features up here that I think are really useful. It also does come with some adapters, which I think is super helpful. I also do use my phone or my laptop to record depending on what I'm feeling like that day. And if I'm recording an audio-based episode, I will use voice memos either on my laptop or my phone. And if I am recording a visual-based episode with video and audio, I will either use the iMovie camera so I can directly import that into iMovie. And then I do also like to have something to take notes with, whether that is my laptop, my phone, maybe a notebook, my iPad, something like that, just so I have a brief outline of what I'm going to be talking about. For your microphone placement, this is really important because you do want to make sure that your microphone is in a good range of where your audio is coming from. My rule of thumb is to keep the microphone about this distance from my mouth, just so the audio is crisp. You can only hear my voice. If I am sitting it on my desk, I'll kind of lean in when I'm talking. And if there is video included in that episode, I like to make sure that the angle is kind of similar to the one that I'm using right now. Because in a podcast, the main part of your content is what you're saying, not like what you're doing. It really doesn't matter how short or long your podcast episode is, as long as you have good content going in. This is a little bit different than the timing that is kind of required to have a good YouTube video, because for the most part, this is something that people are listening to. Okay, so now everything is set up. My mic's not plugged in. This is just more for the aesthetic. But now that everything is ready to record, I go ahead and I open up voice memos. Pretty much for this entire section, I'm gonna pretend like I am filming just an audio portion. When we get into the editing process, I'll also discuss what I do with video form content, but pretty much in the recording process, the only difference between audio and video is that there is video. So before we get into pressing record, if we are doing both audio and video in an episode, I will simply do a 1, 2, 3 clap once I've started recording on both devices, so you can line up the audio better with the video in the editing process. But just to make things a little bit more simplified, I'm just going to explain the audio aspect of my recording process since it's very similar to video. So now we've hit record, what are we going to do? As I mentioned earlier in this video, the timing of your podcast is not necessarily the most important thing. It's more or less the quality of your podcast. But I've done like an hour-and-a-half long episode before with friends, so it really just depends on what content you're providing in the episode. I would say the biggest difference between recording a podcast and recording a video is that things don't need to be as seamless. People will listen to a podcast because they want to hear people talking. People listen to podcasts that sound like realistic people. When I'm recording an episode, I do like to keep the recording as one long recording. I don't do multiple cuts when recording because 1, I want to make things easier for myself, and 2, again, you don't want to censor your personality in recording a podcast. Okay, so let's pretend like I am done recording my episode. We're gonna move the mic aside and we're gonna bring out the laptop. I'm gonna start by downloading the audio that I just finished recording, and I'm gonna import that into iMovie. iMovie will not directly let you upload an audio file into the project space without having some sort of image or video for it to attach to. So a little sneaky life hack that you can do is to insert your podcast logo image into the project space and then attach the audio that way. What I like to do when editing a podcast episode, first of all, it's a lot easier than editing a YouTube video. There aren't all these steps that you necessarily need to do. If anything, you don't even need to edit it at all. But I do like to listen to the entire episode before I upload it, because obviously maybe there's like a word or two that I do want to take out. And of course I do want to insert my intro with my little podcast jingle. So what I do is I will insert everything into my project. Cannot speak today. What I want to do is I want to insert everything that will be in the episode in the final product into my project space, and I will listen to the entire episode. If there are any edits that I need to make, I will do that. On iMovie, Command B will split clips and Command Delete will delete clips. Command Z will also undo anything. But basically, let's pretend like I've gone through my entire podcast, I've made the edits that I want to make, and I am ready to save it. The final thing that I like to do before saving my audio for my podcast is I will go to little icons in the top right corner where you can adjust like sound, grids, things like that, and there's a little audio icon that you can click on. It is right next to the sound icon where you can adjust the volume. And basically here, if there is background noise in your audio, you can adjust that. But my favorite thing to do is to click on the audio enhancements, and I click the increase bass option. This makes the audio sound so much crispier, and I feel like it makes it sound so much more like a podcast. But now moving into saving your audio file. When going to export your audio, I would recommend, if it is an audio only episode, to save it as an MP3. And iMovie does have that option where you can just save the audio without the video. I believe iMovie will default to a different form of audio to download, so I will go to the option of the audio form that I want to download, and I will select MP3. One, it saves so much faster if you just save the audio, and two, it'll upload to your podcast platform a lot faster as well. So now my audio is saved. What do I do next? I prefer to use Spotify when uploading my podcast episodes because it is just the easiest for me. The specific website that I use is Spotify for Podcasters. It's essentially the podcast platform for podcasters. Something I would recommend doing is enabling your RSS feed. This allows you to insert the other platforms that you upload your podcast on, so you don't have to upload your podcast manually on multiple sites. You'll essentially go to the upper right hand corner where it says, I think it says upload episode. You're just gonna upload that audio file that you have saved to your desktop, and you'll enter in all of the information like your title, your description, what episode number is if you choose to do that, and the steps are pretty simple from there. You just upload it. It's also super nice because you can also schedule when you want the episode to go live, but essentially after you upload, you are all set. But that is what I do to record and edit my podcast. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any more questions, if you have a podcast, if you have a YouTube channel, anything like that, go ahead and let me know in the comments down below. Subscribe if you enjoyed this video. And most importantly, go listen to Chaos and Coffee. But I'll see you guys in a few days. Bye!